So, thanks, Mark and Sadaf. I just wanted to add that Optimal has been in the procurement research space for quite some time. One of our big projects we've worked with the Small Business Administration on is the procurement scorecard. And in doing that, we've gained a lot of insight, not only as a small business, but as an evaluator. And we've developed other tools that can be helpful. One is called the Ravello Contract Report Builder, where we can build contracts based on clauses that the FAR clauses that the agencies are built for specific types of contracts. Excuse me for that, and e-commerce solutions. So it's not so much the services that they offer, the translation, the editing, the Section 508, the accessibility testing, but you can also perform market research in these platforms. You can get instant pricing, real-time tracking of your deliverables, and search from a small business marketplace based on social economic factors, whether they're hub zones, small women-owned businesses, whether they have a GSA schedule or their ability one contractors. And so we've been in this space for quite some time, as I mentioned, a space we think has long been neglected in the policy research world. And so we're going to go on to the next slide here. And so there are ways to contact us listed here, and then a listing of the products, some of which we've talked about today. Our previous webinars included generative AI to read statistical tables, and also just general AI types of seminars. So we had a question in our chat, and so the question was whether or not the tool can actually be used to conduct market research. And I think, Mark and Sadaf, that's what exactly is what you're saying, correct?
Yes, it can. The goal is for this tool. And again, we're still in the development and piloting stage. So to the extent that we're able to work with an agency, we would have an API to SAM, and we built the tool with that all in mind, and of course the FPDS data as well as other data sources to then be able to conduct market research in a more automated way, in a streamlined way, where it's literally linking those various data sources together in the background for you.
Okay, very good. And from what I understand, this project or this product was piloted with under a Maryland grant. Is that right? The Maryland Industrial Partnership grant with the University of Maryland.
It was we received funding from the state of Maryland, and we collaborated with computer scientists at the UMBC, Tim Oates, as well as his colleagues there, in building the tool. And again, this goes back a good number of years. It uses functions and I guess let's see, tools that we built for other Ravello products. And so, Ravello has gotten ATOs or authorizations to operate from other federal agencies, from multiple federal agencies, I should say. And so that those same security features have been built into AcquisitionAI.
Okay, cool. Very good. Let's see. I think we have a question coming in while that question's coming in. So the okay, Sadaf, this question's for you. And the question is, because can you see the question?
So
I
Does
read the
web scraping?
Yes, I see that. So it does web scraping to identify qualified vendors. How accurate is the pricing? That's a great question. So the way we identify the other potential vendors is happens at like multiple levels. The first level, which we have already developed, is we looked at firms that are registered in SAM. And as you all know, if anyone is interested in doing work with the federal government, you have to first sign up in SAM. So we started using that as our universe, right? So that, and then the criteria that you have of firms on SAM is what we used as a starting point, which includes socioeconomic characteristics, which includes location, business size, revenue, number of employees, and so on. But not only that, we linked data from FPDS-NG, Federal Procurement Data System Next Generation, that has the contract information of prime contractors, so that we know that for a given firm, do they have prime contracting experience? If they have it, what NICS codes, what agencies, what type of work? So we have all of that information to make it very, very rich. But whoever asked the question, that is actually very, very good, because if we limit our world to just SAM, then we lose out on potentially qualified vendors who are not on SAM. And if we are just looking at FPDS NG, there could be folks who are doing subcontracting for a long time. They don't show up in FPDS. So that is where the web scraping comes in, because we have not only the information of firms from SAM, but from other data sources. And then we are in the process of scraping business information and business profile information from there and adding to it.
And let's just say one of the things that when we're piloting and thinking about sort of the progressions of it, because as Sadaf was saying, the universe of federal contractors is defined by SAM. It's a very solid foundation to build from. But to the extent that there's a need to identify firms that are potentially qualified that fall outside of that universe, we've thought about, and of course we haven't kind of moved on this part, but I think there are opportunities for leveraging state registries where state government agencies have registries of their own, of their contractors. And in many cases, as we know, many of those firms are not federal contractors, but there may be opportunities for them in the federal space. And unlike other tools, there are other tools on the market where they're just kind of sending out solicitations and saying, here's some solicitations from the federal marketplace. Again, keep in mind, this is about, again, we haven't really highlighted this part, but we've got a module that essentially uses these same algorithms that identifies specific opportunities that are matched to firms' qualifications. So to that extent, you're able to then help those firms identify opportunities that they're aligned to. And based on these same criteria that we outlined earlier, you're able to do that in a very precise way.
Thanks, Mark. I just have one last question as we wrap up. And so, Sadaf, I recall there were some future functionalities that had been sketched out, such as scraping for procurement opportunities for small businesses and other types of calendars and events that can be useful to the small firms.
I can address that part. Yeah, because it really is the case, similar to what I was referring to with respect to identifying specific procurement opportunities to match to firms' qualifications. You're able to use those same algorithms to identify, like say, potential partners. If you're a small business and you're looking for a large business prime to collaborate with, we have the information that the large businesses, large primes are doing, and are able to use, again, these same algorithms to identify, of course, whether there's subcontracting opportunities in the solicitation that are required, as well as the types of services that they may procure, and then using that information to identify the firms, or whether your firm is aligned, has those product or services that are aligned with the needs of those large prime contractors.
Got it. And so from what I recall, you and Sadaf have worked with SAM and FPDS data in the past. You've created APIs. You know all the data fields quite well, and that's what kind of spurred this idea to create this tool. Is that right?
Well, I could say it from a small business owner. It's spurred from multiple perspectives. The first is that we recognize the burden for us as small businesses, that we respond to a lot of RFIs, and similar to what we've seen in the evolution in the healthcare field with electronic health records, that's improved quality. It's a reduced burden. And we think that there's that same opportunity in the acquisition life cycle and the federal marketplace. And so to that extent, yeah, we looked at it from our perspective, but we also empathize with our colleagues in the federal space, the acquisition officials, and recognize the burdens that they have. And I'll call it the burdens of undertaking market research, but then again, having to access all these disconnected systems, and the challenges with that, and wanting to make and provide a better customer experience.
Very good. We have a question from the chat again. And while you're thinking about answering that question, I just wanted to say that one of the products we had spoken about in our last AI webinar was the OptiBot. And for those who had not attended the last webinar, the OptiBot was so that you could train a bot to read just your information off of your website, whether it be statistical tables or research document, whatever the corpus is, and train to be within a knowledge boundary. And we just want to share with the audience members, especially those who work in the OSTBU office, that this was a way to get answers out en masse to small businesses without individual emails and phone calls, and reduce that level of burden on them. So the question we have is, what is the subscription cost for the product?
I can I
And
can
Mark?
I can address that. You know, we're still in the piloting phase. So to the extent that we're in the piloting phase, we're looking to pilot this with a federal agency. And in that, of course, it would be a discounted subscription price, given we're still in the piloting phase. Because, you know, as Sadaf talked about some of the challenges earlier, we've worked through many of the challenges that were listed, but there are still some, like for example, reducing inherent bias in the existing process. And we want your feedback as a part of the pilot to get a sense of, because I think we've tried to anticipate the things that you would want to see, like for example, in the filters that we talked about earlier, and the types of criteria that would need to be exercised. You know, there are things that aren't in there that we're looking and building in, like say the certificate of competency and aspects like that, because that does come into play, among other types of factors. So to the extent that, yeah, we'd like to be able to reach out to you to talk about conducting a pilot. And then, of course, if it works for you, if you see that there's a return on investment, we're confident that you will realize a fairly rapid return on investment, then yes, we would like to negotiate a subscription.
Mark, I would like to also add one thing which we didn't really quite harp on was this is just one example that we have talked about how this tool could be used by the federal government procurement officials. This example was on a case-by-case basis, right? A solicitation by solicitation basis. Now, just imagine if it works for just one solicitation at a time, you could be doing this at a larger scale at the forecast stage, such that even before you're ready to roll out the solicitations, because we, from our experiences of working as an evaluator for the Small Business Administration, we are completely, particularly about on the evaluation of the procurement scorecard. We know that you all have small business goals. We know you have procurement goals, and you know you have to meet it. So not just have to worry about individual ones and then put out an RFI, get the responses, and then see if it can even be done by a small business or a hub zone or a woman owner or an 8A. You can do it, scale this example, scale it up such that at an even earlier level, you in the forecast or in the procurement cycle or the acquisition cycle rather, you will know, hey, are we likely to meet our goals or not? So it gives you more runtime.
And just to follow up on that, because again, these same algorithms can be used for different purposes, as Sadaf said. So, for example, if you're an OSTBU or you're a small business sort of programs officer at an agency, and you're trying to figure out, okay, who do I invite to this outreach event? Who do I send these draft statements of work to? Again, it can start with that draft statement of work or descriptive information, and then we're able to then identify those potentially qualified firms that then you can send emails to, again, built into the system to send emails to that group of firms that you've identified to ask them about their interest. to ask them about, like, say, their bonding level, if that's a requirement, to see what their sort of set aside criteria are, to see what GSA schedules they have access to. And so that if going through that process is then that much easier to undertake multiple steps, really not just the market research, but again, multiple parts of that acquisition life cycle.
Well, thank you both. I definitely learned a lot today as well, hearing about all the creative things that we can do with the Acquisition AI product. And that reminds me, the other AI webinar was on comments processing using AI. Blanked on that earlier. And thanks for everyone for joining us. And we look forward to hearing any thoughts or comments or feedback that you have. And we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.